But before that, in the NFL right now, tomorrow, Friday, is the deadline for teams to pick up fifth-year options on players who were drafted in the 2016 draft.
Right.
And we're going to take a look at guys who went top 10, top 15, and a couple guys right now we know already are not going to have that option picked up.
That's right.
And a few guys already have had it picked up. As we take a look at the top 10 right now, we just remind people at home that Jared Goff obviously was #1 overall pick. Then it was Carson Wentz, followed by Joey Bosa. Zeke, Jalen Ramsay, Ronnie Stanley out of Notre Dame went to Baltimore, DeForest Buckner, and then Jack Conklin, we know, Tennessee, they did not pick up that option. And number 9 is Leonard Floyd at Chicago, and then Eli Apple, who clearly is no longer with the New York Giants.
No, that's right. And so they're no longer with the New York Giants on the New Orleans Saints. They have come out and said that they are not going to exercise the fifth-year option rights on Eli Apple as well. Hey, Eli Apple, if you look back at the draft, was one of the most controversial picks of the draft. I don't think anybody really at the time thought he was worth the number 10 pick. Certainly was a first-round cornerback in that conversation, but I think a lot of people thought he would be somewhere in the end of the first round. So that ruffled, I remember, some Giants fans' feathers up here in that in this area at the time.
The funny thing is, Giants fans don't even care now.
No, they could care less.
They got bigger issues right now with the draft.
You're exactly right.
Way, way bigger issues. But if we go back right now and you have an opportunity to redraft, reposition some of these guys, make some moves, let's start right at the top.
Yeah.
Right at the top, Rams, Jared Goff, quarterback. Knowing what you know now, and you have a Rams coming off a Super Bowl, Jared Goff in there, quarterback. Would Goff still be that guy, considering everything it took just to get there?
Yeah, the quarterback conversation is the interesting thing a part of this draft. Like Jared Goff, I don't think his talent matches up with the #1 pick in the draft. That's what I would say right off the bat. Looking at it now, looking at it then, I didn't think he was the #1 pick of the draft, to be totally honest with you. But looking at it now, I think that fact has been justified a little bit. Now, some people are going to go, well, look, they've been successful, and they went to the playoffs, they went to the Super Bowl, and I understand that, and that's really good, but they didn't do that because of Jared Goff. He was certainly an important piece and helped it out, but I don't think he's the type of talent where I look at as a #1 pick, a guy that needs to be able to carry the team at times. You got to be able to carry the team with your physical ability.
You want generational guy.
You want a generational guy.
It's not a first-round pick. It's the #1 overall
Exactly
pick.
right. It's Peyton Manning. It's Baker Mayfield, right? It's those kind of guys where you look at.
Carson Wentz more that guy?
To me, it was. That was where I was going to go with it. Carson Wentz, now, we're sitting here. He's been injured in the last 2 years, so that's the concern. But I do think, I'd always try to remind everybody. You go back to the 2017 season, the year the Philadelphia Eagles won the Super Bowl. I mean, we were in Week 14, and Carson Wentz was going to be slam dunk the MVP pick that year. And I brought this up a few times during the week because this conversation's come up. The game he got hurt, the Rams-Eagles game where he tears his ACL. I mean, halftime show on Fox that day literally started off with Howie Long going, I'm watching John Elway reincarnated here with Carson Wentz. That was the praise he was getting. So, yes, if you gave me my conversation there, Carson Wentz would be the #1 guy off the board. We got another quarterback.
Everything we know now.
Yeah.
But can I just
go ahead. Please do. Please.
You know how this started.
Right.
And it started poorly.
Right.
Because not only did you not love the pick, but then you couldn't have liked how it actually got underway with the Rams. But the fact that it was so bad leads you to what? McVay.
Yes, right.
Okay?
You're right.
So you have to incorporate that. So if Wentz is there and they're better, where are we with the Rams?
Maybe you're saying maybe Wentz is good enough to save Jeff Fisher's job, and maybe they keep the same offensive coordinator. You're right. That's the what-if factor of all of this, certainly, that could have changed the timeline.
Just for me, just the fact that you get McVay because of how bad it went at the beginning, I think it's
worth it right there.
I do. I think it's worth it.
Yeah, okay. I understand that logic because McVay he's special. He's worth a first-round pick in himself. I mean, he is. He is that. I'll say this much. You rattled off the top 10 picks.
Yeah.
Where I would start right away is I have no problem with any of the top 7 guys. I mean,
fine.
To all of them.
Right up to DeForest Buckner, sure.
Exactly right. I can look at all 7. Goff, Wentz, Bosa, Elliott, Ramsey, Stanley, Buckner, and I go, they were top 10 picks. They justified it. They won. Now, maybe Stanley didn't deserve to be number 6. Whatever it is. But either way, they were top 10
Brian Stanley's
guys.
going to be your left tackle for
Exactly, for a decade.
Easy.
Exactly right. He is a franchise left tackle and a killer that way. DeForest Buckner's awesome. I mean, he's going to get a huge contract here in the next year or two. Jalen Ramsay, Ezekiel Elliott, Joey Bosa, they are Hall of Fame type talents. So, hey, you could sit here and we could go back and redraft it and go, well, any of those three, Bosa, Elliott, Ramsay, we could justify the Rams taking him at number one here, with all this, in the past.
The funny thing about Jack Conklin is, if you're a year into this, after being drafted, Jack Conklin is a better pick than Jared Goff.
Right. The hype was real. He played real that year. He was.
The injuries have been the issue.
Yeah, I think so. The injuries are the issue. I think that also maybe a hair lack of athleticism at the position that they would like maybe to be able to protect against a really good edge pass rushers. Maybe that's a little less than adequate, but I do think at the end of the day, it is the injuries. When you miss a year because of ACL. Last year, he missed what? Was it 8, 9 games?
Yeah, concussion.
Knee injury and a concussion.
Yeah.
So I think those things, out of the fact that the play's been just a little less than, all said, you know what, we're not going to pay this guy, premier market money at the tackle position, and they don't want to be stuck with that option on their hands, and so they're not going to do it. Now, maybe Conklin plays really good this year, and then they find a way to sign him to a long-term deal and go, okay, the injury bug, we feel better about that. You played good. Things are looking on the up and up, and maybe he does get paid that way.
Now, the big thing is you go outside of the top 10. In fact, you go outside of the first round, and you start wondering about guys that you would move up and where you would move them and how high you would move them. And the biggest question is a quarterback.
Yeah.
Because where would you put Dak Prescott? If you redrafted this at this point, how high does Dak Prescott go?
Dak Prescott, I think realistically should have been a top 15 pick if we were to sit here and just reevaluate again. Now, it's all about, I didn't go back and look at, what was their needs back in 2016.
That's fine. Yeah.
But I think at a very base level, what we're talking about with Dak Prescott, a guy that's been to the playoffs twice, right? Won one playoff game. 1 year they were, 13-3 and lost to Green Bay as a number 2 seed in the playoffs. Hey, is he perfect? Does he have everything? Does he have an Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes arm? No. Okay. But he's big. He's strong. He's very athletic. He has a good arm. He's a great leader. He says all the right things on and off the field. And to me, yes, he's franchise quarterback material.
Starting quarterback, you say what? Fringe top 10?
Yeah, exactly. I would think given on the year, Dak Prescott's that guy.
That's his seal.
10, Yes, exactly right. I mean, anywhere 8 to 15, I think is exactly where he is. I would like to see him improve on his passing a little bit. And I'd also like to see that offense improve around him to make things a little easier at times too, if I were to defend Dak Prescott. So, hey, Dak Prescott, I would imagine, is going to get paid pretty big money here soon, somewhere between $25 and $30 million a year. I don't think he deserves to be Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, Ben Roethlisberger, but I think somewhere between 25 and 30. I look at Kirk Cousins and Jimmy Garoppolo and certainly go, Dak Prescott deserves to be paid more than them, and they're around 27 to 28 million.
Heck, when they were struggling last year, they were basically telling us that they were still going to pay this
Exactly
guy.
right. I mean, the grass isn't always greener. You got a franchise quarterback. You can't sit there and be going, well, we might be able to do better. Well, yeah, you might be able to do better, but you might also draft a Paxton Lynch and be worse off. You don't know. So, sometimes you just got to go with what you have and be happy about the positives that the guy at that position brings to you. But the draft really, you kind of hit it a little, gets really interesting from like 10 to 31. I mean, there is so many guys in that little pocket of 10 to 31 in the 2016 draft that do not belong there.
No, and it was so solid for that top 10. But then after that, obviously, listen, there are questions about Carl Joseph just in Oakland. Yep. Although I think they're obviously much more significant, much bigger questions about guys like Corey Coleman.
Yes, Corey Coleman, who's on his 4th team. Shaq Lawson is one of those guys at pick 19 who the 5th-year option is not going to be picked up. Doesn't look like Darren Lee of the New York Jets. He's another guy, 5th-year option. Don't think it's going to be picked up. Not with the fact that they have an Avery Williamson and a C.J. Mosley already playing that position. Would be shocked there. Then you talk about wide receivers in the first round, right? Will Fuller, who's been good but can't stay healthy. And then Josh Jackson, Laquan Treadwell have certainly proved that they were not first-round picks.
No doubt.
Listen,
I get the allure, obviously, with Corey Coleman and Will Fuller, which was a speed factor.
I get it too.
And you're blown away by that. But I would also say when you look and you see a second-round pick in Michael Thomas.
Right.
Oh, my
Michael
God.
Thomas, second-round pick at receiver. Sterling Shepard, a second-round pick at receiver. Tyler Boyd from the Cincinnati Bengals, a second-round pick. All of those guys we just mentioned are better than the 3 first-round picks. So, yeah, you go right away, and I go, okay, those guys deserve to be in the first-round discussion. I got another group of guys where I could go, okay, these guys deserve to be in the top 15, hands down. And what's amazing here is a lot of these guys are second-round picks, which is what I love. And, hey, the success rates prove that second-rounders actually have more successful careers than first-rounders. The success rate is greater with them right now. And you look at the second round and you go, damn, okay, Miles Jack, right?
Yep.
Miles Jack is one of the best middle linebackers in football for the Jacksonville Jaguars. There was knee concerns at the time.
Yep.
He also played a lot of running back in college.
He was, that's a lot of miles.
There's a lot of miles. People weren't sure what to do. They weren't sure if the knee was going to hold up. I understand that a little, but either way, if you had a redraft now, you go, oh, he's a top 10 pick. I mean, he's every bit as good as a Devin White was coming out of LSU this year, who was a number 5 pick. So that one jumps out to me. I'll tell you a guy that at the end of the first round that really jumps out to me, William Jackson from the Cincinnati Bengals. Liam, I'm telling you, this guy is going to break the bank here in the next year or two as one of the top paid corners in football. He's one of the best man-to-man guys in the sport. Nobody knows about him because Cincinnati hasn't been very good the last few years, but he is truly awesome to where I think if we looked at that guy, I'd go, oh, there's a guy that deserves to be in the top 15. Chris Jones.
Yeah.
Kansas City Chiefs, right?
Certainly.
You know, we were there in Kansas City this year. We saw what he did in the playoff game. He was disruptive, pushing the pocket, batting balls.
Well, and it's funny, too, because we talked about that defense, that defensive line and the rush ends and bigger names on that defense, but Chris Jones was becoming the bigger name, and with good reason. I mean, you're paying attention, you're watching. And he's one of these guys that you mentioned. First of all, he did have the stats.
He did have the stats.
But if he didn't have the stats, he'd have the Chris Simms.
He'd have the playoff stat, too.
100%.
Yeah,
he's that guy.
And in the game we watched, I don't think he had any stats the game we watched, but he had a few plays where he pushed his guy back into Andrew Luck's face and swatted a ball or caused an inaccurate throw where I said, Chris Jones made the play there.
Yep.
That was him, even though nothing goes on the stat sheet for him. Chris Jones, other than Aaron Donald, is the best interior pass rushing D lineman in the sport. You know, he's up there in the conversation for best defensive tackles in the sport, up there with the Fletcher Cox of the world and Aaron Donald, like I said. So you look at that and go, damn, he should have been picked in the top 15.
But that's incredible. So you start talking about second-round guys, right? Like you were mentioning. You have Chris Jones. You have Miles Jack.
Right.
You get Michael Thomas.
Yep.
You Sterling Shepard.
Yeah, Sterling Shepard deserves to be in the...
Derrick Henry's interesting.
No doubt about it.
Considering how things played out last year. And then really the boldest pick of the second round that year, and I'm not saying he could be a first rounder because, listen, we all know how it went down at the end of his college career. But that Jalen Smith pick in the second round was a bold pick.
Bold
considering what was going on with him physically and the severity of the injury that he was dealing with. But I can tell you, we cover Notre Dame. We're there. I remember watching him walk off the practice field. It was before his freshman year. Guys have their pads off. It's hot. They take their shirts off. And I saw this guy, and everyone's like, wow, who is that guy? People thought he was a senior because he was chiseled.
Yes.
Unbelievable. I mean, he's a rare physical specimen, and I think the Dallas Cowboys saw it. If there's anyone that can come back for this.
Yeah.
And if he can come back and just be 85% of the guy he was.
Yeah.
And wow, what a gamble. And the payoff is there.
You're right. No, and to your point.
I know you're a looker of men's
I am.
bodies.
Trust
I believe
me.
that's how the start of this. I felt like
he is at the top of the list. Liam, no joke. If he doesn't get hurt that year, he is going to be a top 5 pick. It was one of the best linebacker films I have watched since I've been in evaluating. It was truly amazing.
They didn't even get the most out of him back then.
No, they did not. They did not.
Yeah.
But I got to give Dallas Cowboys a lot of credit for picking him there because there was risk. And it really paid off, especially this last year. Because, Jalen Smith was phenomenal this year, so they're getting their monies back there. Hey, and while we're on teams in general, you want to talk about a team that killed the 2016 draft? The Dallas Cowboys are in that.
Yeah.
Zeke at number 4.
Yeah.
Jalen Smith to start the second round. Malik Collins, who's a starting defensive tackle for them, out of Nebraska in the third round. You get Dak Prescott in the fourth. And they got their nickel corner, Anthony Brown, in the 6th round that year. So Jerry Jones, the Jones family, they killed that draft. So that definitely jumped out to me. Other names that were in the second round that deserve to be first-round material, top 15, top 20 picks. Xavier Howard, corner for the Miami Dolphins, just like William Jackson, I just told you. Those two guys are, to me, on the fringe of being top 5 corners in football right now, right? If I had to name the 5 best corners in the sport right now off my head, I'd go Ramsey, A.J. Bouye, Stephon Gilmore. I would go Patrick Peterson, and then it would be probably a William Jackson, Xavier Howard type conversation there. That's, to me, where they are. You know, they're not being paid big money yet because they're still, on the 2016 contracts and all that. But I think that is coming. So they jumped out to me. Deion Jones, the Atlanta Falcons, talk about he's a second-round pick. He deserves to be a first-rounder, in my opinion.
Okay, so let's do this.
Yeah.
Let's take the quarterbacks out.
Okay.
Okay, let's take Goff, Wentz off the board. If you had to pick the number 1 player, non-quarterback, in this draft, knowing what we know now, your number 1 pick, regardless of need, regardless of team, just the best player, who would you take?
It's between 3 guys, and it's actually the 3 guys towards the top of the draft anyways. It's between Bosa, Ezekiel Elliott, and Jalen Ramsay. I would probably go Joey Bosa. I think that would be the guy. You know, Zeke, I love Ezekiel Elliott. I loved him then. I love him now. Jalen Ramsey's one of my favorite players in football. I mean, if I could come back and be anybody in the NFL, it might be Jalen Ramsey, just to be able to run and talk the way he does. Such a specimen. But, you know, those are the 3 guys I think I look at more than anybody to go, ooh, they deserve to be in that conversation. You know, but, yeah, Bosa's special. I mean, there's no doubt. Great pass rusher, great against the run. I mean, really can do everything. So I guess I would go with him number 1. I'd probably go him or Ramsey number 1, you know, because at running back position, I'd have a hard time picking one no matter what. And, hey, another interesting wrinkle about that draft is the running back position.
Yeah.
There was the number 1 rushers in football in 2016. 1 and 2 were both picked in this draft. One was Ezekiel Elliott, pick number 4. And then you had Jordan Howard, pick 150, was second in the NFL in rushing that year. So that, to me, was where you get in the conversation where some people don't believe in why would I take a cornerback or a running back in the top 5 when you have guys like Jordan Howard who are picked in round 5 or late 4, whatever that number is, and he still is successful.
But that's the interesting thing, right? Because it is the position that people believe. If you have a talented player, he can come in right away. He can be that guy. And you mentioned some corners there, and the best corners in the game, they're guys who have developed.
Yes.
All right? I mean, they're not first, second-year guys.
Right.
I mean, you're developing. You're 5 years. You're into that year. If you're a 2016 draft pick, you're now at that point where you're approaching top 5 territory.
Right, yes.
You do have to learn it. There's a lot of athleticism that goes into it, but you really do have to learn it.
You do. You take a step from being just this raw athlete to a guy that's awesome in, you know, all areas of the game, understands offense and defensive schemes. You know, I would really say for corners, when you get to year 3, 4, 5, that's really the prime of their career because they're still able to, you know, maximize their top end speed because they're in their mid-20s and all those type of things. And now you're in year 3, 4, 5 where you've been in the NFL, you're comfortable, your knowledge is at a different level, and that's where you can become truly a special football player.
And then it's how long can you hang on to that at that point?
Well, we got to throw some love at just a few other guys that I think were in the conversation. You said Derrick Henry, good job by you. He definitely should have been a first-rounder. Jaron Reed, nose tackle for the Seattle Seahawks. He should have been a guy, look at it right now, that should have been drafted in the first round. I go Sean Davis, a safety for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'd say you could throw him in that conversation. And even Kevin Byard, the safety for the Tennessee Titans. He would be another guy I'd look at and go, wow,
Well, especially when you look at how many safeties actually did go in the top 20, right?
And you mentioned one already that was a bust in Oakland and
Carl Joseph.
And Carl Joseph. And you go, well, no, I would definitely rather have Kevin Byard than Carl Joseph at this point. Yannick Ngakoue in the 3rd round. You want to talk about why pass rushers are at a premium in the draft? Well, because here's the 2016 draft, and there was only 2 good pass rushers in the whole damn draft. It was Bosa and Yannick Ngakoue. Yep. I looked at every pick of the whole 2016 draft and didn't find one other guy where I said, oh, yeah, he's legit coming off the edge. There were some guys that are starters or play or whatever else, but not in that type of class. So that is always interesting to me. But you look back, the Jaguars, we talked about them. The Cowboys killed it in the draft. The Atlanta Falcons got Keanu Neal.
Yeah.
He was in a first-round pick and certainly worthy of where he got picked. Probably really should have been higher.
Yeah, he's at 17.
Right. We talked about Deion Jones in the second round. They got Austin Hooper at tight end later on in the draft, who has been a Pro Bowler at the tight end position. And they got Devondre Campbell, who's another starting linebacker for them. So they killed it in the draft that year, too, along with the Saints, Dolphins, and Lions. I got to give them shout-outs. It's the teams that kind of stood out above the rest.
But still, like you mentioned, what Dallas did in that draft
is amazing.
Is remarkable.
Well, what you really start to correlate is you look at teams and go, oh, the teams that have kind of been good the last few years have had pretty good drafts for the most part.
But then the question is, if it's that good, then why aren't they winning?
Well, yes. Why are they not winning?
I mean, granted, they had some success, certainly a high level of it a couple of years ago, but you've got to get in the playoffs and be a little bit more successful if you've been that good in the draft.
Yes. Yo, what's up? Come on, man. Subscribe on YouTube to Chris Simms Unbuttoned podcast. I need you. Please hit the subscribe button, please.